created middle ground. The intention was to uncover humanity and empathy shared among strangers with opposing beliefs. Whether your political beliefs...
Cancel culture is a good thing.
Cancel culture is a good thing.
We have the freedom to say what you want, but everyone else has the freedom to respond and cancel you if you say something that is racist, homophobic, transphobic, etc. Cancel culture is definitely good in the means of like deplatforming people who are spreading very hateful messages.
What is your opinion on Trump being cancelled on Twitter?
When you go onto Twitter or whatever, you check I accept the, guidelines, the community guidelines, I agree to follow them, and he didn't follow them, so Twitter has the right to take him off the app.
And for people that might make the counter-argument that Twitter is biased and will only cancel right-wing politicians, that's not true at all. Twitter and other forms of social media have canceled left-wing activists. There is an equal balance on both sides.
All right, so I think cancel culture is kind of an invented thing. It really is. I mean, so what cancel culture basically means is something that we've had in this country the whole time. You can say whatever the fuck you want for the most part. I mean, you can't slander people or anything like that. But you're also going to be subjected to the court of public opinion. This is something that's always been there. You look at people who spoke out for women's rights or racial equality and things like that. Yeah, they have the right to do that in this country, but look how much backlash there was at them. I mean, and this was way much more than this. And so now, it seems like a lot of the people on the right are getting a taste of their own medicine, and they're all of a sudden calling it cancel culture. I think some of it is a little overboard, to be honest. Digging up something somebody said on Twitter fucking 15 years ago and using that against them to make them lose their job or doxing people is wrong, things like that. But for the most part, if you have a shitty fucking take, if you have a hot take and people don't like it, they have every right to exercise their free speech and tell you you're a fucking asshole. That's just how it is.
You brought up canceling him off Twitter. I'm sorry, I disagree. When the Taliban can use our social media, but an ex-president can't, there is something wrong with that.
Did the Taliban violate community guidelines?
It doesn't matter.
I think it matters to Twitter what their community guidelines are. That's why they banned Trump. Trump violated community guidelines. That's what every platform has, whether it be TikTok, YouTube, Instagram.
The Taliban stones people because they're gay.
If they've done that and they've posted videos of stoning gay people, I agree, they should be removed, and that is fundamentally wrong.
The problem is they're smart enough to not do that.
Well,
yeah, so why isn't the fucking president of the United States not smart enough to not do that? Oh my gosh, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Well, they're smart enough to not do that. Well, why? So the president isn't? He isn't smart enough? You just fucking basically said it.
Well, then why wasn't Trump?
The president wasn't smart enough to not do that, I guess.
If I'm an American and I have to vote between this person, I need equal access to both of them to decide what's right. Bro, you could be a Klansman, you could say you hate black people. That's not my job to police your language. I can't expect everybody to love me and think the way I think. All y'all think different. I mean, that's totally dope. But the fact that you want somebody removed because they think differently, that could be you one day.
Do you think freedom of speech is something that still exists in America?
We do have aspects of freedom of speech. Like, you can't go into a movie theater and yell fire. So obviously there are limits of freedom of speech.
But they're picking and choosing who they're silencing and who they're letting talk.
If people react negatively to what you say, it goes both ways. You can't just...
Who are they, though? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. These are private companies. They can do whatever the fuck they want, right? There are consequences, though. So, the hosting companies, they're conservative social media that was supposed to be started up. So what happened when they went on and tried to start their own company or whatever? I can't remember what it was called. It was during the presidency and stuff. But they got booted from their host servers because they're fucking saying all kinds of crazy shit and could easily make it liable for these people for hosting them.
Say
Sure.
that, they
100%.
can't. Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
America is becoming less and less safe.
I'll leave this to you guys.
So I have a lot of friends that have been in the military for the last 20 years because they refused to get vaccinated. They told me that they would be dishonorably just discharged or kicked out of the military. I just believe we're losing a lot of good service.
What does this have to do
right now?
What does that have to do with what does vaccinations have to do with America being safe? I don't get the connect there. He's saying that, first of all, Soldiers have always had to get vaccinated. There's always been something like that. You've always had to get inoculated. Ever since the Civil War, you know, soldiers were mandated to get inoculated and things like that. Like, this is not something that's new. It's just a new disease, and it's something that's been politicized.
Police officers are down. Crime is up all over. When police aren't there, we're murdering each other at a really high rate. Police are in those neighborhoods because the homicide rate is high. Y'all can run around talking about police all you want, but I challenge any of these liberal kids to spend 2 weeks in the environment I grew up in, and I promise your perspective will change.
The one advantage we have about being
I grew up in that environment. I grew up in gang neighborhoods. I grew up in you know, neighborhoods where things like that happen all the time. It's not, and he's talking about today, so it's more safe. What? It just doesn't make any sense. So basically, like, the cops never did anything in those neighborhoods to help the situations. They always just seem to make things worse in in most cases.
being older. We've been through a threat or two, and our enemies, you know, like China, the Communist Party in China, they're laughing at us. You know, Russia's like, we don't need to do much. They're gonna screw it up on their own. We need to get the help of our younger people that haven't been through a threat before to realize a lot of what's going on is not good.
Oh, Jesus.
My name is Mike. I'm 59 years old, and I'm a conservative parent. You know, growing up there in the 1980s, you know, that was a huge influence on me, and it formed my views, and the people that I was around is the reason why I'm a conservative
Fucking Reagan stan right here. Reagan stan.
parent. I think America should be more middle of the road and not be necessarily more liberal. And if anything, it should be a hint more on the conservative side, because we're going to watch our freedoms
Of course you're going to think that. You're conservative. That's duh.
get extinguished or encroached if we don't guard those freedoms and make sure that all of our children have a chance to succeed.
Can the disagree step forward?
I actually wished I came up here for the agreeing section, because I think I interpreted the definition of safety the same way that you guys did, but after hearing your guys' conversation, I started thinking about how our American people aren't safe in the face of like imminent like climate disasters that are coming our way, and how we don't have the infrastructure to deal with that.
I actually very much agree with that, because I think we need to define like kind of like what we mean by like we're less safe now. Do we mean like there's more homicides after COVID, or like what do we mean?
I would say before we got rid of half our military, half our police force, you know, slavery was legal. The Holocaust.
What? When did we get rid of half of our military and half of our police? None of that has happened. Like, police budgets and military budgets have been growing, like, consistently for years and years and years. That's just absolute, complete, utter lies, is what that is.
Was legal. So we can look at all of these mass atrocities and say we're doing what's right. Everybody who was a part of the Holocaust government, they were doing what Hitler said. They were doing what was right. So everybody losing their job for not getting vaxxed, and all the vax people, you got who can we control? Everybody who get the shot, that's who's gonna do what we say. The enemies are coming, and we don't care about that because we want to care about what color we should wear and pride and critical race theories. Like, no one else cares about that but us in America. That's our problem.
So you think that talking about sexual orientation and all that kind of stuff takes away from the safety of our country?
She's got a good point. Like, what does that do? How is defining who we are as people and who, like, you know, our sexual orientations and making it easier for people to have rights and have their identities and their autonomy the way they want it. How is that making America less safe?
You sleep with has no merit in the real world. What does it matter?
Okay, let's just broaden the scope. With the coronavirus pandemic, why did it take weeks for us as a country to mobilize together to fight the public health crisis that was already affecting the nation?
It was a scam to get Donald Trump out of office. It's all fake. My opinion.
I agree with you. I don't think that we could create, or the Democrats could create some international plan, getting all of these scientific communities outside of just the U.S. and even
Yeah, like that's the thing about conservatives. They're so American centric, so U.S. centric that they don't even realize that there are other countries in the world that are going through the same thing. Like, are all they making it up too? Is it the Democrats are making the whole world lie about stuff?
international governments on their side for something. They're just trying to get Trump out of office. I feel like that's heavily ridiculous.
Trump was the thorn and nobody saw coming, and they had to find a way to get him out of there. If there's no mail-in voting, 100% Trump is the president right now, 100%.
Yeah, because overwhelmingly mail-in ballots were to Biden. That's obvious.
Okay, there was mail-in voting because there was a fucking pandemic. For Christ's sakes, man. Like, the regurgitated talking points of these people, it baffles my mind.
Exactly.
It's not because mail-in ballots are fraudulent, because mail-in ballots are actually not fraudulent at all. This election was the safest election in
Show the proof. Where's the proof that mail-in ballot? Look, oh, let's just make that face. No, it's ridiculous. What the fuck, man? Like, they have no argument, so they're just like, well, I don't know. It's just causing doubt in people's minds is the only thing they have to do to destabilize things. Just causing doubt, and they've got this guy fighting against his own interests. Is what they do. You know, this guy right here, that guy, fighting against his own interests. Like,
history.
There's a lot of videos, so you see people with fake ballots. So that's here and there. I'm not.
That's just hearsay from random people on TikTok. Are we really gonna like take that as like empirical evidence?
yeah, hearsay. Exactly. It's a fucking telephone game.
It's personal opinion.
Personal opinion, it doesn't matter. What matters is the fucking facts. The facts are what matters. It's not going to change the facts just because your opinion is completely moronic.
My name is Parker. I'm 19 and I'm a liberal. My sisters and I have become a lot more liberal, a lot more left-leaning over time, while my parents have stayed a bit conservative. Before, when I was a conservative, I kind of just went off a lot of the indoctrination and propaganda that was spread to me when I was a kid. I grew up on the fact that, oh, we shouldn't have increased taxes because taxes are just negatively affecting us. Personal responsibility isn't what a lot of the decisions people make in society is based on. It's mainly based upon their environments, how they're socialized by their parents, people around them, things.
Why is the younger generation, like Zoomers and like younger millennials and stuff like that, how are they so much fucking more smart and put together and more like aware and more critically thinking than 90% of the people who are in their like 30s, 40s, and 50s, 60s? Like I mean, I'm not trying to generalize too much because I'm you know in my 40s, and I don't think like those people do at all. But yeah, you see it a lot. You see that kind of behavior a lot, and it seems like the older the generations are, the more people think can't think critically and don't have empathy.
My news source is more reliable than the other side's.
News source.
When I look at conservative news, I see a lot of conspiracies that I don't necessarily agree with. And so if everything comes from opinion and just people developing their own ideas, it just doesn't seem reliable to me.
I feel like the only way we can get unbiased news is in order for news media organizations to stop prioritizing having really vivid headlines that might not necessarily be 100% accurate.
I think that starts with putting people over profit. They want the biggest story or whatever, and they don't want to actually give the news that...
Yeah, it's true. Like, once news started becoming a profit, like a driven apparatus, that's when we started really not getting the news anymore. I mean, once like cable news like CNN and things like that, like those were specifically driven by money. And once you get money behind anything, whether it be politics or media or whatnot, you're going to see that there's corruption there, that there's a hidden agenda, ulterior motives with the news. It's to push an agenda.
That would be beneficial to our everyday average Americans. And I think that if we put a lot more focus on putting people first instead of the big news or the big story, we can change that aspect of society.
I agree with you 100%. Like I say the civil rights movement is the civil rights entertainment industry because it's so profitable. Put a police shooting on TV, it's breaking news, every headline is on every social media, you're selling shirts, you're selling signs. That's so much more profitable than showing me and you shaking hands. The news media is literally capitalizing off the emotions of society. No matter how you feel about it, handle it in your privacy of your house. Why? Because if you can do it on camera, somebody's gonna make $1 off of it, and that's not fair to you.
Young people today are too sensitive.
Of course.
I think it's a good thing.
I've seen a lot of these Jubilee videos, and I rarely see them where it's so split and so divisive, where everybody's like in lockstep with each other on either side. And so I just find that interesting.
Sensitive. I think today they can be more sensitive than what they probably could have been 30 or 40 years ago. The growing up was the Berlin crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, we had the threat of annihilation,
Well, we don't today. We have fucking 9/11 that happened. We have the pandemic. We have, Syria. We have North Korea. We have, the threat of climate change destroying everything, like mass hurricanes and things like that. I don't think that the older generations had it worse than these kids today. I know, like, my 13-year-old had to go hit puberty during a fucking pandemic.
Several times. And a lot of times I go, thank God John Kennedy handled it.
The country has been spoiled for so long. They're trying to make it so a man can't be a man. And
who's whining? Who's the one whining? You guys are the ones whining.
If you don't let men be men, then things start crumbling. Society crumbles, families crumble, and broken homes start happening.
And kids need their fathers. So 36% of kids don't have a father. So every boy is, well, my mom is mad at me, my dad don't love me, my dad don't care about me. Maybe I should be gay, maybe I should be trans. I don't know who I am.
What? Oh my God. Did he just say that? Like, okay, so parents not loving you is what makes you trans or gay, right? Like, oh my gosh. I wish my kid was out here to see this because that's fucking hilarious. That's absolutely just disturbingly funny. Because I guarantee you, my child is very, very loved by both me and his mother. And just because he was born biologically a woman and we accepted him as he is now, as a male, my God. It's unbelievable that these people they scapegoat everything. They blame everything on if that was the case, you'd see a lot more. There's no correlation there. You'd see a lot more gay and trans people than we do even now. I mean, it's no correlation.
Your father
whatsoever.
puts confidence in you. No disrespect to anybody, but the younger generation of men are soft. And if we had to go to war, they're not protecting America. There's no better place to.
Who do you think's in the fucking military right now? This is complete conjecture and bullshit. They just, of course they're gonna say this. It's things are changing and they can't handle it. So,
be as a black individual or whatever you are in America. Go to the Middle East right now and say you gay or you trans and see how they treat you. Johnny, 32 years old, and I'm a conservative parent. My grandfather was a no excuse individual. He grew up in the Jim Crow South, but he worked hard. The house that he bought is still in our family today. He had a garden in his backyard. If you step past a certain line, he got on you. So to watch the men before me who really could have been lynched for stepping out of line, who really could have went through a hardship for not doing what society said, the worst thing that can happen to me is I get a mean tweet or a dislike. So I gotta fully embrace who I am, and I know.
Yeah. So what the fuck are you complaining about? You're talking about the degradation of society. What, do you want people to be lynched still to this day? Do you want that kind of shit to happen? Oh, the only way you can be a man is if somebody's fucking trying to kill you because your skin's a different color. That just makes no fucking sense.
I don't create anything with my two hands and feet.
I'm Hannah, I'm 17, and I'm a liberal. I really want equality for all, and the liberal policies that have been passed side more with my values of equality for those who are on the LGBTQ, those who are on the gender spectrum. Something about conservative parents that I don't like is whenever I come across them, they seem to be very rooted in their ways and not willing to listen to someone who's a teenager like me. They think more because I'm older, I have more knowledge.
So I just wanted to see something. They do this factuality rating. I want to see how this guy.
I got a fully excuse. No disrespect.
Hold on. Let me see if I can find this. The factuality rating of this guy. There we go.
Could have went through a hard.
Okay, factuality score. Mixed factuality. News and sources may sensationalize. Let's see. Johnny's news source biases. He's yeah, you can see that. And then then it showed hers.
Spectrum. Something about conservative parents that I don't like.
So let's see here. Now look at Hannah's here. Now she does have a little bit. She does have she reads many news sources. Most do lean left, but she still watches some of that conservative stuff. Some in the middle. High factuality. Most news sources are reliable.
Is whenever I come across them, they seem to be very rooted.
Oh, we should take that quiz. Where's this? Let's see. Oh, it's in the description. We'll do that afterwards. That'll be fun.
Listen to someone who's a teenager like me. They think more because I'm older, I have more knowledge, which is not necessarily always the case.
Can we have the disagreeer step forward?
So young people today are too insensitive is the
topic. Men are being
topic.
raised by women that they're weaker is, in my opinion, completely false. Our generation, it's not more sensitive. We're more aware of all these things. Being transgender and gay is not something.
Oh, I like that so much. We're not weaker. We're more aware. We're more empathetic.
Something that should be ashamed of or make you feel less. In today's society, that is why women are fighting for equality, because this idea that because they only have a mom, they're weaker, or because they're more sensitive. That's in my opinion, completely false.
And I would say in the environment that I grew up in, the teen pregnancies come from girls without fathers. The homicides come from people without fathers. Every girl that I know, if they grow up with a daddy, they get married before they have a kid.
Why do they not have fathers?
If you want me to be real, because a lot of women make bad choices on the men they procreate with.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Is he really gonna say he's gonna blame that on women? Are you fucking kidding me? No. Well, first of all, the drug war has a lot to do with why there isn't a lot of men, like husbands in homes in like, you know, predominantly black areas, for instance, because obviously, factually, black men are something like 4 times more likely to go to jail than white men, which is for drug use. There's 4 times more black men in prison than there are white men, as far as per capita.
If you make a bad choice, that's your responsibility. Every bad thing that I did in my life, it was when my daddy was in jail. When my dad was out and I had my dad's reassurance, I was a better person.
I had one daughter that had to move across the country to get rid of a toxic relationship with somebody that was harming them.
Why does the woman have to move across the country because the man is being toxic? Why can't the man be taught, don't be toxic?
Oh, I agree.
Women nowadays have to deal with those kinds of relationships.
Why do you think he was toxic? Because of things like toxic masculinity. You know, you have a daughter, you should fucking know that, you know, men shouldn't act like that, but yet you consider it part of the psyche of man, or this is just who men are, you know?
The mother knows better, I would say, than the father about that.
We're not more sensitive, there are just more opportunities for us to be sensitive. You can say like 15, 20 years ago, there weren't videos of black men being shot by police all over the internet. Now that that's there, people are more inclined to feel a certain...
Boom! Boom! This is also true. The internet and the connections that we have made empathy ubiquitous, a little bit more ubiquitous between people, and like it makes it easier to step into somebody's shoes and see things like that.
way or take a stance on that topic.
Do you think it would be more beneficial to show police also interacting with white guys? Because more white guys get killed than black guys by cops.
If you look at
That is not true. Per capita, more black people get killed by cops. Per capita. The only reason that more white people get killed is because there's fucking 60 to 70% more white people in America than there are black people. That's why. That's why that happens. Nobody thinks about per capita. Like, they just think, oh, it's more. No. No, that doesn't make any fucking sense. If there were equal numbers, it would be 3 times more black people.
the amount of white people and the amount of black people, there are going to be more white people killed because there are more white people.
Look at that!
The percentage of black people that are being killed is higher than the percentage of white people.
Just because you're pulled over doesn't mean you have to resist. I mean, they don't just kill you when they pull you over.
Oh my god. Oh my god, he's such an apologetic. He's such an Uncle Tom. Oh my god.
It's all about based on how you perform it.
Is this Candace Owens' brother? I think this is Candace Owens' brother. I really think this is Candace Owens' brother.
As an individual, I've been pulled over and never had a bad interaction in my life. When I was rude, I got snatched out the car. Everything is a personal choice, and you can't take accountability for your life, and you will forever be a slave.
That's not true. There are definitely issues on the side of policing. Black communities, majority POC communities are over-policed. There's larger patrols in black communities. There are police work longer hours in majority black communities. So there's an issue from the policing side as well.
Politics has damaged my relationship with a loved one.
Oh. They should all step forward for this. What?
I'm sure you can relate to this as well, but in the Asian community, there's a lot of anti-blackness. So with the advent of the Black Lives Matter movement this past year, having conversations with my parents was really difficult, especially around the nuances of racial justice and sort of like what the movement was fighting for and how to articulate that in like the very closed mindset that my parents had.
A lot of my family voted for Trump in the past election, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't like to say this, but it made me view their morals a little bit differently, and they're willing to adapt and change was so different, and I was just like shocked because I wanted to understand their side and really talk about it, and I was met with, you're wrong, and we don't want to talk about it, and that kind of really damaged just kind of the way I looked at them.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I also think that...
I think if somebody has good ground to stand on as far as their political beliefs and their social beliefs and things like that, you will want to talk about it, because if you're right about something, you shouldn't be afraid of your convictions. You shouldn't be afraid to defend that, you know?
It just made me less willing to expend the energy to have political or like just like any like hard conversations with my parents or anyone else in my family. My name is Rithwick, I'm 18 years old, and I'm a liberal. I grew up in a low-income immigrant household, and I think the systems that are in place right now aren't sufficient enough to support people, Americans like myself or my family. Because my parents were immigrants, I think they were liberal on issues like immigration and things that directly affected them. I'd like to ask to the conservative parents why they don't necessarily listen or adopt their own beliefs, whether political or social, based on the conversations they have with their children, and why they're so set in their ways.
You know, I read a lot of the tragic stories where family members don't talk to each other anymore. Personally, I think that's sad. Do all my family members vote the same? No. Do we have a pretty good idea of how family members may have voted? Yeah. But we went more of agree to disagree. I'm not going to not buy you a present for Christmas because, you know, you decided to vote for somebody that I don't like. Give me a break. Families are special. We've got too many.
They should be, anyways. I've had a lot of my family disown me because of my political leanings and my social leanings and things like that. Because my beliefs that, you know, people should be equal. You know, all genders, all sexual orientations, all colors, all races should be equal. People just don't seem to believe in that for some reason in my family. Not my immediate family as much as my extended family, which is why I don't talk to most of them now.
Many people, as you talked about, that don't have them.
When I took this prompt, I kind of took it more of like my view of the person changed differently because, not because of the way they voted, but because some of their values to me were, like you said, moral values, and that shows kind of part of their character.
Would you say that morality is subjective to each individual person, though? Or would you say morals are the same across the board?
Okay, this is ridiculous because if morality is subjective, that means that I could go out and fucking murder somebody, and morally, you know, if I think it's okay, then it's okay, then it's normal, then it's all right. There are objective moral values out in the world. You know, there definitely are objective moral values. And the way that's based is, what I think is you give people as much freedom as possible without infringing on other people's freedoms. All right, so that's one of the main bases is objective moral value. You know, there's nuance there, but this guy just saying morals are objective or subjective is ridiculous.
The basic is human equality for all. And so if you don't believe that somebody should have an equality based on their gender, their sexual orientation, or their race, or anything like that, that's a moral problem in my eyes.
Because that's a huge thing with the trans and the gay and LGBTQ and all that whole thing. So I grew up LDS, being Utah County, it's like 95% Mormon. At 8 years old is when you get baptized. And so if you're raised around where 95% of people think the exact same way, I feel like that's too young of an age where you're a child and you don't really know what you're doing. And so where I have a problem with, you know, the trans or these different things is...
Okay, so here's the abortion topic. As far as that's concerned, there are some things that may sound like they're morally right. And that's a very nuanced subject within itself, Derp Shop. What that basically is that okay, yes, some people say, oh, you're killing babies or whatever. Well, scientifically, there's conjecture with most cases about when life actually begins, but so there's some confusion there. But more importantly, I go on the topic of bodily autonomy. Okay, so a woman's body is hers. All right. Now, if there is a fetus growing inside of her, the body is still hers. Can that fetus like survive outside of her, without her? So that's a invasion of the bodily autonomy. If you want to look at it like that, if you don't want that, then it's an invasion of your bodily autonomy. So therefore, women should have that right, in my opinion. And in the opinion of the court of law, for now anyways, I mean, they're trying to overturn Roe versus Wade as quickly as they possibly humanly can, especially in like Texas and stuff like that. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, think about, let's just look up bodily autonomy, because that's what I base a lot of my arguments on. It's all utilitarian for me. It's you know, it's a balance of your freedoms, having as much freedom as you possibly can without infringing upon the freedoms of others. And that's the most important. And what your body is yours. So therefore, if I want to, that's why I agree that drugs should be legal and that prostitution should be legal. You know, if you're doing them responsibly and by for yourself and not giving them to other people like children or whatnot. That should be legal because it's consenting adults. It's you're not infringing on anybody's freedom and you're expressing your freedom and using your bodily autonomy how you want to. So yeah, that's definitely how I kind of view things as far as that's concerned. To give up the THC to look for work 2 weeks ago and it's wreaking havoc on you. So they shouldn't be able to, as far as I know. You might want to look into that because I don't think that you can be, since it is legal in in Nebraska, you shouldn't be able to be able, or they shouldn't be able to stop you from working because of Delta 8 THC. I don't know because I haven't like really looked into that too much, but I would look into it a little bit more because legally you should be able to, and it doesn't make any sense, and I'm sure you'll agree with me here. It doesn't make any sense because basically you can drink as much as you want, like get sloppy ass drunk the night before you go in for your drug test and pee, and they won't say a word about it, but you smoke something that you can readily buy at one of the local places around here and just smoke a little bit and go to sleep and you're fine. So yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I would look into it because I think Delta 8 metabolizes differently than actual THC does as well, regular Delta 9 THC. So just look into it. I'm not sure about that, but I would take a look at it because yeah, that would drive me crazy, like to have to change what I do with my freedoms, just so that I can afford to get a job and stuff. Let's continue.
Getting kids at like 10, 12 years old, and they're pushing them down that path.
Who's they?
Who's they?
Mm-hmm. Who's indoctrinating these kids into becoming LGBTQ and etc.
There's a lot of groups out there.
Like?
I just heard that there's groups out there. I don't
This is great. Who are they? There's a lot of groups out there. Oh, like who? Oh, I've just heard there's groups out there. See, these guys have no critical thinking skills whatsoever. They don't. They just hear things and it goes into their brain and fucking fuses with their fucking derp cells up here, and just, oh man. I wonder if he watches this, if he hears himself say this and thinks, wow, I'm a moron.
You don't think there's groups out there that do that?
No.
I'm assuming you're a straight man, so I think it's weird for you to comment on the queer experience and what that's like for someone growing up who's struggling with those experiences. The way you're describing it as indoctrination, people who are figuring out their sexualities and their queer identities aren't necessarily going to ascribe
Yeah, Dunning-Kruger effect.
labels that are put before them.
If I'm not mistaken, the brain isn't fully developed until you're 25 years old, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So I know how I used to think at 16. Man, I know how I used to think at 21. Man, I'm not against kids doing whatever they want. It's just the older you get, you change. I got my first.
Okay, but what about all the people who are over that age and are gay? I mean, I think like just because your brain doesn't completely develop till you're 25 doesn't mean that you're like gonna think you're gay at 13 or think you're trans at 15, and then all of a sudden once you hit 25 your brain just changes and all of a sudden you're fucking you're not anymore. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Through at 15, I'm covered now. If I was a little older, I probably would have waited. When you're young, you're not thinking, and everybody has made a bad choice. And because you're stressed out, you go change your gender. Because you want to try something new, once you do it, you can't go back. The more you throw stuff at kids before they develop, that's indoctrination because you're trying to get them while they're not fully cognitive to know what's going on.
Who's throwing
The
stuff?
older you get, the more conservative you become.
When I got older and I had kids and I had a family, I actually started reading policies.
I actually became less conservative as I got older. When I was younger, I believed in God, went to church, and I was a big stand. Like I thought Reagan was a shit when I was like fucking 7 years old, and he'd pop on the TV. I was like, oh, that guy, and fucking Bill Clinton and like people like that. It wasn't until I think George W. Bush that I really like started being like, okay, there's something not right here. And then I'm even like, I was kind of a stand for Obama too, and now H.W. Bush was better than Reagan in some ways, I would agree, but in other ways he wasn't. They're both tyrants in their own right. And Reagan's the reason that our economy is so fucking shot to this day. He's one of the main reasons. He was the catalyst for it. But yeah, so yeah, as I get older, like I was for instance, I was all like a big stand for Obama. You know, I was like, oh, he's base as fuck. Like, you know, like Obama's like the dude, he's the man. Like, fucking rah rah, sis boom bah. And then he got into office, and as I started learning more about what he was doing and how you know, society was in general, I decided that, you know, he probably wasn't as good as I was leading him on to believe. And then I started finding out that there's very, very few politicians in the world that are worth a crap. And then I found Bernie Sanders, and I was like, oh, he's a fucking diamond in the rough, a beacon in the night. And then he kept getting fucking subdued and pushed down and things like that. And it still happens. I mean, with just about every left politician. And by the way, Biden's not left. Fucking Nancy Pelosi's not left. Those guys are all they're middle of the road. They're corporate Democrats is what they are. They're centrists.
Everything about me changed when I became a father. I had a reason to, and I'm sure you would agree with that.
Yeah, as I've gotten older and the environment we're in right now, I feel like they're trying to cancel the Constitution. They're trying to cancel Christianity.
I mean, most teenagers are liberal. I was liberal when I was a teen. It's fun. Culture is liberal. So and when you're younger, you're going to be a part of culture.
Right.
When you're older, you're trying to raise your family. You don't have the time to care about what LeBron James said or who did that. Just when you mature, you value what's around you.
My name's Sean. I'm 36 years old, and I'm a conservative parent. My dad's kind of my idol. I've seen him basically.
If you're a traditional conservative, you tend to want less government control. Modern, far conservatives are another breed. I'm slight right, but if Democrat has a solid idea, I won't turn it down. Well, okay, so I think people have a skewed idea of what it means to be left or right in this country, or what it means to be Democrat or conservative, and things like that. Like, would you say that you're like fiscally conservative or socially conservative? Because I don't really consider you a socially conservative person, Derpshot. Fiscally, I don't know enough about your finances and your situation there. I do. I would love to have a conversation. Maybe you can come on sometime and I can talk to you about this, because usually, okay, so conservatives are against taxation, like a lot of them are against taxation, and I don't like taxation without representation, but I think taxes are important. Like, I pay my taxes. I do wish that they went to things that are more important to me, but that's more of a problem with our the structure of our democracy rather than our taxes in general. Yeah, and taxes are necessary evil, but when they're not taxing higher brackets appropriately, we all get screwed. That is a left-leaning position, my friend. That is a left-leaning position, because what that basically states is that there should be taxation for higher tax or tax levels for tax the rich, is a statement that's said a lot with the left. And the reason that is because capital gains tax in this country are rarely taxed. Okay, so like the only time that assets get taxed, like stock, for instance, gets taxed, is when they sell it. All right, so they can keep this stuff and kind of hoard it. You don't get off public assistance by taxing them more than those who make six figures. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is like, if you see that during the Trump presidency, billionaires were getting taxed less than people who make, say, $50,000 a year or $40,000 a year, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And that's the thing, is it's like you look into capital gains tax, and that's how most people that are in that bracket, like the 1% or even the 5%, make their money, is through capital gains. And so they have all these assets kind of locked up, and so they can borrow against those assets. And when they borrow against those assets, They're able to basically get free money and use that money and move that money around however they want, and it's kind of a form of hoarding in a way. It's very, very much a form of hoarding. They're hoarding money because we can't just print money until it goes out of style. That causes a fiat currency, which I don't know. It's if you look at modern monetary theory, it may not even be the case necessarily, but at least domestically. But if you're looking at it from the workers' point of view, we're getting screwed because they're keeping this money out of circulation, and trickle down in economics don't work, which is another concern. Exactly. If I make a killing on my stocks, yes, I'm going to pay some taxes, but I get to keep most of it. That's what I'm saying. Most capital gains are not taxed like they should be, and that's wrong. I think that they should be taxed, and not just when you sell that, because you're taking money out of circulation at that point. There's some nuance and some technical stuff behind that too, but yeah, mainly that's a lot to do with it. And not only that, but those people gain so much of that power through that money that they can influence things politically to make it more and more easy for them to hold that money back or to put it in other places where it's not taxed. And then you've got tax loopholes where people can put their money in South Dakota or the Cayman Islands and not get it taxed at all too. And the richer you are, the more access you have to do things like that. And so, yeah. Should I don't pay that much? I pay much in taxes. I pay more in sales tax than on capital gains. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is you see like food prices have gone up 30%. Who's that affecting? It's affecting the people in that are poor and things like that. I wanted to also get back to the thing that you said about welfare. Is I don't necessarily agree with the welfare program the way it's set up right now. I do believe in welfare or enriching programs, but what they do as of right now is they will they'll people who are on welfare. I grew up a lot on welfare, so this really was something that happened to me quite a bit. My mom, when my dad left, she had some health problems. We had to go on welfare. What my mom did was she went to college and started, getting a degree and stuff like that. She finally got a degree in graphic design. She worked very, very, very hard to get that degree. She worked very hard, and we were, pretty much on welfare the whole time. So when she first got out of college, she got a job, an entry-level job doing graphic design, and which is amazing because, even back then it was hard to find a job within your degree field, especially right out the gate. So she had to, and it was like, I can't even remember exactly what it was, but it was a small position, and she made just above the amount that you could make to get kicked off welfare, just above, which is still well below the poverty line, by the way. So because it's well below the poverty line, we were way worse off. Our lights kept getting shut off. We weren't able to afford food. We had to go to food pantries all the time. And this is while my mom had worked her ass off to get a job and pull us out of poverty, and we get knocked right back down into it because of this. And so then she ended up having to quit that job. She had a nervous breakdown, first of all, and went to a hospital for a bit, and then ended up quitting that job. And we ended up back on welfare. And so, yeah, that's the weird dead zone in welfare that needs to be fixed. Yeah, it's still around. It's even worse now. And so it causes people to be stuck in this. I think, to be honest, Derpshot, I think it's a not a bug, but a feature for many people, because it keeps people subdued to a certain level, and keeps them reliant on minimum wage jobs and things like that. Like it keeps the pool of those jobs bigger and things, and it causes less threat to higher paying jobs and allowing people to break out. Because the way that capitalism is set up, there has to be a lower class. in order for things to survive. As of right now, sooner or later, there will be a point where, menial labor will be done strictly by robots and shit like that, and they'll either try to kill us off, or they'll find some way to appease us, like a universal basic income, and it'll probably be as little as possible, just enough to allow us to survive. Because that's what they do with these welfare programs, is they make it as minimal as possible. But yeah, sorry, we just went on a whole stun lock there and got completely off track. But I enjoy that conversation. That's the kind of stuff I love to talk about.
To build a very successful life, and seeing how simple he's lived his life through prayer and through just basic conservative principles. Being raised up LDS or Mormon, I saw a lot of...
I love the music they put behind this.
Just judgment, and so I don't necessarily believe that you have to be in a religion, but I do believe in prayer. I've been all across the board as far as the way my life has gone, and at my happiest times I've lived by conservative values.
Building off of what you're saying about like teenagers, we're a different generation, and so we view the world differently, and I think that's probably why you've seen more teenagers be liberal, because we just view the world that way, but I don't think it has anything to do with
No, my generation, I was liberal too when I was a teenager, and all my friends were too. And when you're a teenager, life is fun. It's just totally, you kick it, you party. So that's what I get the teenage.
See, this guy's all about the anecdotal evidence. It's like when I was a kid, that means everybody, because it happened to me like that. That's how everybody is. No, that's not necessarily the case. Like I said, I was very much more conservative when I was younger, because I was more ignorant to the world and the way it works.
As you grow, you either can run away from responsibility.
That's what I think. I think like, especially with socially, even sometimes fiscally, but socially, I think there's just misunderstandings about fiscally, but socially, most of the time, if you're more conservative, means you're less educated about the subjects that you're conservative about.
Or embrace responsibility. When there's real things going on, you start looking at life a little different. Versus when I was young, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about corporate gains tax, and I didn't know about my stock account, and I didn't know that I can, all these things that I didn't know when I was a kid.
So when people are generally talking about taxing the rich more, they're talking about the top 400 billionaires that are literally paying a lower effective tax rate in taxes than the middle class. The top 400 billionaires paying an effective
This guy,
tax rate
I like
of
this
10%,
guy a lot.
Obviously not a fair share, and I think obviously everyone can agree here that they should be paying at least a fair share, right?
Yeah, he knows what the fuck he's talking about. I mean, he's coming with facts, man. Coming with those facts.
You increase taxes on someone's assets, though. Most of those billionaires aren't.
Unrealized capital gains is how they're specifically trying to do it now, but it would be through long-term capital gains, because a lot of the people who are paying those taxes, they're paying capital gains tax rate. There's also tax loopholes that have been lobbied into Congress by big corporations and big businesses lobbying politicians to get whatever they want.
So if you get older and you work yourself off, you become a multimillionaire, you deserve to pay more because other people didn't work as hard as you?
But it's not
Absolutely.
because other people didn't work as hard as me. It's because we, as a society, want to give everyone access to things like basic necessities like healthcare, education, have everyone have an equal opportunity. We don't have that right now.
You can have equal opportunity of a baseline, but the outcome would still be different because every individual is going to work different levels,
Well,
right?
obviously, yeah.
Right. So I think that's where we are in society. I was able to pull it off. I graduated high school with one.
We're not there in society, though. We've got, I mean, if we were there wouldn't be fucking hundreds of people sleeping in the streets and like fucking homeless camps and shit like that. Like it. No, that's not how. There wouldn't be people struggling and people committing suicide because they're not making enough money and can't support their families.
GPA, I don't have a college degree, so the only limits are the limits you place on yourself. That's just my perspective.
America is the best country in the world.
I think despite all of our challenges and problems, when you look at all the other countries of the world, everybody is still trying to come here.
The way I can talk out loud, the way I can feel myself, the way I can express myself fully as an individual, it ain't.
But you're trying to talk against those things, like, aren't you? Now, I have a little bit of a different view of this. I think that in some ways America is the best country in the world. In some ways, and in some ways it's one of the worst. It just kind of depends on what you're talking about. I think it's relative to the subject matter, or whatever you're discussing. I think I'm much luckier to live here than I am in some other countries, but there are things that I wish that I had here that I don't. Like, for instance, they have universal healthcare in the UK and in Canada and stuff like that. We don't have that here. I haven't been able to go to the doctor, and like I haven't had insurance for a while. I'm finally getting insurance, but like I have to pay out the ass to go to the doctor. We have to pay out the ass for drug costs and things like that. Whereas, that's why Bernie Sanders went to Canada to buy insulin for people here, because of it was to show how much the difference in price was here compared to in other places. accessible and affordable mental health care would help a lot. Yes, and that's something we don't have. Like, it's not standard with most medical health or medical insurance, right? Like, you don't get mental health care with it. Like, you have to pay for that out of pocket. Like, there's no, it's not considered a necessity for health under it's like cosmetic surgery to people. Or it's cosmetic surgery at that level to a lot of the insurance companies and things. And so it's like, yeah, so that's really true. I feel for so many families of mine who could get ahead if they had mental health care issues. Yeah, it's very true. It's if we could, everybody had a chance to get mental health care and address some of the anxieties and mental disparities and mental problems in the United States, then I think we'd be a lot better off.
Many places black men can go do that outside of America.
3 years ago, when I got into the court systems and the different rights taken away from me and government control and government power, and so when you have that stuff stripped away from you and you realize most other countries don't have the freedom that America has. America has been the greatest country ever, and I think it will continue because of a lot of good people that stand up for the right things.
I think I would like to ask the question, what is America the best at?
I think we just was talking about the freedoms that we have here versus what they don't have in other countries.
So what about places in Scandinavia that actually have higher amounts of freedom? They have better democracies than we do here, higher quality of life, higher median income. They have healthcare systems that are more efficient, that take care of everyone in their population, more access to education.
But when you look at the big picture, everybody wants to come here. Millions of people are not trying to get into Scandinavia.
Why?
Because we have more opportunities.
Because Scandinavia doesn't allow them to. Like, that's the main reason, is that Scandinavian countries, it's really, really impossible to become a citizen of Norway or Sweden. That's the rub there.
Than any other place in the world.
We don't even make the top 25 in women equality.
But we have a better opportunity to do something about it compared to other countries. And I would love it for Europe to open their borders the way we have and see if you can get people from other parts of the world to do mass migration to Europe.
I was going to mention Scandinavian countries as well, but I think it's also important to address that Scandinavian countries are very homogenous, racially, socioeconomically. They don't face the same geographic diversity that we have. What you were mentioning with the fact that we have the opportunity to write women inequality, why is that not happening? It's because the way our democracy is set up, our Congress is literally in a gridlock right now, as it has been for so many past sessions of Congress. We aren't getting anything productive done.
The opportunity we have here is incredible, and I'm very happy that I live here and not somewhere else, but we are so focused on, America is the best, that we don't look at these other countries and say, why are all those people so happy, and what is that, and how can we incorporate that into our society?
Yeah, it's blind. It's America standing. It's blind belief that we're the best country without seeing the ways that we're falling apart in areas.
I think diversity is good. I think diversity of thought and diversity of pain, it's super helpful. It's really easy to get clogged up into this groupthink. So I don't expect anyone else to agree with me or feel the way I feel. I just expect you to respect my right to feel this way. I respect your right to feel this way, and we keep it moving.
100% agree. I couldn't agree more, actually.
Awesome, that's a wrap.
Yeah, so that was quite interesting.